Hi guys, it's me again, Isis Fernandez, English professor at Lone Star College, Kingwood, and I'm really excited that you guys are back. Here's the next video, and here's the next thing that I do. So I talked about the online course survey in the first video, and this is a survey that I give to my students, whether they are online or face-to-face. I always give them this, more than likely because I kind of want to learn a little bit about them. Because I feel that the more we know about our students, the better we can do to serve them. So before I even start designing anything, I always like to do a course survey, kind of to see where they are. For my online English 1301, which is the beginning freshman English, which is what I teach, Comp and Rec, I usually do an online survey to get a little bit about their skill set for English. But because we are hashtag COVID campus now, I need to convert my 1302 into online. And so one of the first things I needed to know was how they're feeling and how they're doing. So I'm going to show you the online course survey that I made and kind of teach you how to do yours. I also wanted to kind of to give you some background about why I asked the questions I asked, and if I had to do this again, what questions I would ask. So the first thing I did was to consider if I was going to use a Google form or a Microsoft form. For me, I'm a little techie-ish in this way. I decided to use Microsoft Forms because my campus is a Microsoft campus, in that our emails are Microsoft. We have free access to Microsoft Office. Our students have access to Microsoft Office. And so we are a Microsoft campus. So I wanted to keep everything as linear as possible. You can easily do this on a Google form. In fact, I've done this before on a Google form. It is up to you what you want to use. So this is what I do. On an online course survey, I asked which class they were in. Now, the reason why I asked which class they were in is simply because I happen to know my classes pretty well. I know that my 8 a.m. class functions one way, and it functions different than my 9:30, and it functions different than my 11 a.m. So I want to see kind of who's saying what without them actually telling me who they are. So of course, I asked them if they downloaded the Pulse app, and the Pulse app for us is the app for our learning management system, Brightspace. And what I like about the Pulse app is that once I put an announcement up, that they get a text message or actually a notification on their phone saying that I have put up an announcement. And so they're able to know that I am on it. They need to be on it. Do your work. I also like it because they can use their Pulse app to do their work very quickly. If I have something quick, like a quick quiz or a quick poll or something. I also have here a question about how secure they feel about taking an online class. What's so interesting about Lone Star College Kingwood is that our campus was, I'm going to say devastated, but we're still here, by Hurricane Harvey's floodwaters. And so we were down for a pretty long time. However, we've been back for a little bit. So I wanted to see how many students felt secure about taking this online class. Because it is a freshman class, I have a new group of students who may have not taken an online class or even know what Brightspace is. So I wanted to measure to see how people are feeling right now. So I tried to make this kind of funny. Excuse me. And I don't want to do that. Okay. To make it kind of funny. So it goes anywhere from I'm great, I'm ready for this, to this is going to be the toughest thing in my life, FML. Yes, sometimes doing text speak works for them. I don't know. It just works. All right. So then I wanted to measure for sure if they have taken a totally online class, how many have, how many haven't. And that's going to tell me how intricate I have to be in my design, how much care I have to take in my design. For example, if they've already taken an online class, or the majority have taken an online class, then I don't have to do much with making sure they understand that they have to look at their module at the beginning of the week. I don't have to do explainers on how to upload their papers, how to do a discussion board. But if I have some who have never taken a totally online class, that means that's extra stuff that I have to make sure is in the course and in the design, so that way they understand how to best do their course. Then, of course, I wanted to see how well they did on this online course. If they dropped that class like a hot potato, they had trouble. And so that also gives me information. If they got an A, no sweat, those are the folks I'm not worried about. Maybe I should be, but I'm not worried about. So I need to see where they were. If they felt that it was difficult, if it was not difficult. If I had to reword this question again, I would ask something like, did you think your grade was hindered by being online? Or how well did you understand how to maneuver the learning management system? So those are two questions I think I would have added and tweaked had I had more time. But I wanted to get a lot of information very quickly because I needed to start thinking about how I wanted to design. So of course, these next two questions are the access questions. Do you have access to Wi-Fi? Yes or no? Now, if I had to retweak this, I would have said, do you have access to internet? But if I said internet, you have access to internet on your phone, but that involves data. So I wanted to make sure it was Wi-Fi specifically. Do you have access to a laptop or computer to do coursework? This literally tells me who is prepared to do this. And whoever's not prepared to do it, I've got to reach out to them or have them reach out to me and see what I can do and what resources my college has to help them, or what resources that can be found. Do you have any worries about learning online? If you do, what are they? And this is, they do like a worry dump, and I want to see what their worries are. And their worries range so much, and I'll show you some of the responses here in a second. That shows me kind of where their mind is at, and it shows me how worried they are, because if they're super worried and not ready, I'm going to have a little bit of a hard time having them do buy-in. So I have to make sure in my design I'm addressing that. And if of course they have no worries, then I'm a little bit worried that they have no worries. Not completely, but some worry. So of course, how best do you learn? This is a great question, because this talks directly to design. Video lessons are your jam? Yes, no. You want something interactive, or do you just want to be left alone? You just want to be told what to do and just do it. So that tells me a little bit of how I kind of need to organize my class here. And of course, how scary are they, or how comfortable they are with technology. 10 being, it's so good, it's scary how good I am, and 1 being completely lost. I am looking for how many students are 6 and below, because that tells me that they are going to need additional resources to help them through things like uploading their papers, answering discussion posts. If I'm going to use any third-party interesting toys like Flipgrid or Padlet, that I need to make sure I have a how-to for them to do, and then be prepared to guide them through it. And of course, any questions, and this is a really great question to ask if they have any questions. What I've been doing is taking these questions and every day or so, taking the questions that are there, putting them on the announcements, and then answering them. So everybody gets to know what questions were asked, and everybody gets to see what the answers are. So let's look at some of the responses here. I like Microsoft here because it gives you a nice visual of what's going on. As you can see, for all my classes, it's pretty even. They're only like one person apart from each other, so it's almost a complete third. They're not done. This is completely still open. And then of course you have the responses to everything. Everyone except for 4 people have downloaded the Pulse app. I've already said on the announcements that they need to download the Pulse app. So let's see what happens. Then I see kind of where we are here. For the most part, students are ready for this. Some are okay, they get confused, and some are worried, but with guidance, they'll get there. Only 2 thought that this would be tough. So that leads me to believe I've got to do some groundwork in my design with giving them guidance on how to do things. So when I'm explaining things, I need to be very, very clear, and I need to go by steps. Step 1, turn on the computer. I need to be that intricate. Well, maybe not that intricate, but step 1, sign into your learning management system. Then this is the money question. It's about even here, almost 50-50. Half of my students have taken an online class before, the other half hasn't. Now for me, this is significant because again, we were down for such a long time teaching online only. And so this shows me there has been a shift. There has only been about 19 students who actually have taken an online class before. Maybe they were part of the Harvey class, maybe they weren't. But there's enough students here who have not taken an online class to know that my directions need to be probably read at least 3 times before they get it. So that means I have to be patient with myself as the person designing, and I may have to get maybe one of my coworkers to read the directions and read my discussion board directions to see if they understand what I want. I am lucky enough to be the advisor to the student paper, so I can actually send something to one of my students at the student paper that I advise and say, hey, does this make sense? Is this clear? And if they say it's not, then I know I need a rewrite. This is just like writing, essentially. Is this clear? Is this being able to be understood? Because I really don't want there to be as much gray as there can be. I want it to be very, very clear for students where to go and what to do. So I get to see how many never took an online class, and that vibes with this. And I get to see what they got with their online class. Of course, the Wi-Fi, I have one student without Wi-Fi, so I've got to reach out to that student and see how I best can help. And of course, one student doesn't have access to a laptop or a computer. 4 of them only sometimes, so I've got to find some resources for them, and I'll probably send an email out to some of my people on my end and seeing what we can do to help. And frankly, we're all moving so fast that administration hasn't thought about that yet, but it's nice for them to hear from us to say, hey, we've asked this question. I have a couple students who are going to need materials to do this course. What are we doing? And then we'll see what happens from there. And so we have these wonderful responses. And so a couple of them are worried about maybe missing an assignment on accident for some reason. That means I've got to make sure that I have checklists there. And I want to make sure I put those checklists on the announcement for the week as well. I'm worried about miscommunication through writing and not being able to ask questions on the spot, which means I need to have office hours. And since I'm thinking about mixing it up with synchronous and asynchronous, making sure that those synchronous sessions are very, 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 very focused. This tells me how to, of course, how I'm going to design. And then here's the big money stuff. I know that 6 and below, these are the students I'm going to have to worry about. So right now I'm worrying about 6, 7, 8, 9 students. 7 and above, they can function with technology, so I am not worried. So I am going to definitely explain, but for the most part, they're going to go ahead and gravitate and get the things that I'm saying technologically. For the other ones, I know I'm going to have to explain, so I know I'm going to have to think about in my design how that's going to explain. I may have to explain things a couple of times in different ways for them to get it. No different than your face-to-face class. And of course, questions. And this is what I like to read. All of my questions have been answered after reading the announcements posted the past few days. I love that. That means that I'm on track. I'm doing what I need to do. I'm ready to design. So that's pretty much it. That's how I start designing. I look at what I need, and so much of this is about customer service. Ironically enough, if you were ever in a customer service type of job before you became a professor, you're going to need those skills again. So the next video, I'm actually going to start thinking about modules. So I hope this was helpful. Bye, guys.